Hey everyone, Dylan here. Let's jump in and discuss whether HBO gave one of my favourite video games justice within their new TV show adaptation. The Last of Us released back in 2013 on PS3, a few months before I became a father. I've played it several times since then on PS3, PS4, and most recently, the remaster on PS5. Both Part 1 and Part 2 reside in some of my favourite games of all time. Naughty Dog had created an absolutely unforgettable experience when they released it back in 2013, and since they've updated it with new visuals and made it more accessible to newer hardware, it's continued to be a game that stands the test of time. I was skeptical at first, given the wide range of unsuccessful video game adaptations, but I'm not going to get into that too much now. More recently, there's been some excellent examples of video game cross-media with Riot's Arcane series through Netflix, also on Netflix, Castlevania, another Netflix series, Cyberpunk Edge Runners, all receiving universal praise and acclaim. PlayStation's first attempt at hitting the big screen came with Uncharted only a few years ago, and personally I thought it was good. It made over $400 million at the box office, so they saw some success. However, the major difference here is they didn't really have a way to align that to a recent video game release. So we didn't see too much cross-pollination. We didn't see huge increases in Uncharted's sales performance with the success of the movie. And I think PlayStation and Sony are going to be a lot more mindful of that moving forward, even delaying Last of Us Part 1 for PC to be releasing after the HBO show is now concluded. There's some additional Sony and PlayStation properties hitting the small and big screen. Gran Turismo, Twisted Metal, God of War, even Horizon have all received the green light for new media adaptations. When The Last of Us on HBO was originally announced, I was pretty excited. It's a story that I hold near and dear, and learning that the showrunners behind one of my favourite shows in recent memory, Chernobyl, I thought to myself, what could go wrong? Neil Druckmann's heavy involvement, Craig Mazin, the mind behind Chernobyl and the success and the grounded nature of that story there, I thought that we're in for a treat. But did they give the game justice? Let's discuss.
Do you give a shit about me or not?
Of course I do.
Then what are you so afraid of?
The TV show follows the game's plot very, very closely. Deviations felt justified and led to additional lore and context, adding flavour to some of the source material. We were hit with some differences pretty early on, one of the major ones being the cold open starting back in 1968 with an interview show that we never saw in the video game. Dr. Newman, who is an epidemiologist, is discussing his concern of a viral pandemic. He eventually transitions to his larger concern, larger fear being a fungal infection. This entire scene sets the tone of the show with giving us a really solid understanding of how the cordyceps burrow into the brains of its hosts, not with the intention of killing, but to spread the infection to every last human seeking control. This scene, like several others, keeps gamers and first-time viewers on their toes, really not knowing the direction that Craig and Neil are going to be taking us. While there are beats within the show that are almost identical when watched side by side with its video game inspiration, it is handled with incredible care when colouring outside the lines of the story that's previously been told. Nico Parker as Sarah absolutely steals the show in the first episode, really establishing herself as the catalyst for the entire story moving forward. She is the reason that Joel has this difficulty with loss. She is the reason on the final decision that is made, and Nico couldn't have portrayed Sarah any better. I won't spend too much time talking about Pedro Pascal or Bella Ramsey, but in short, their performances are absolutely phenomenal. They are Joel and Ellie to a T, and honestly couldn't have cast them any better. In the first 2 episodes, we see a far closer Joel and Tess relationship than what was originally hinted at. We actually learn throughout the series that Joel and Tess have been in some form of a relationship for well over 10 years, as we see them again with Bill and Frank. We have a fresh new look at the relationship of Bill and Frank in the absolutely incredible 3rd episode. Bill's town, which is one of my favourite sections of the game, gives us a Bill that is gruff, angry, and a lone survivor.
Once upon a time, I had somebody that I cared about. A partner. Somebody I had to look after. And in this world, that sort of shit's good for one thing: get you killed.
In HBO's adaptation, we see a completely new side of Bill with the absolutely impeccable casting of Nick Offerman and the relationship he shared with Frank, portrayed by Murray Bartlett. This is a relationship that, as gamers, we are familiar with. We understood that Frank and Bill were in some form of a relationship. The game didn't delve into the particulars there. However, it was a very different experience, and I believe only added additional positive flavour to an already exceptional story. In episode 4 and 5, once we move out of Bill's town, we come across completely new characters. Kathleen, played by Melanie Lynskey, is somebody that we've never seen or heard of before. Perry, played by Jeffrey Pierce, who gamers will recognise as Joel's brother, Tommy, in the original game. We learn of Kathleen's brother, who was heralded as some form of Christ-like and beloved figure that eventually would overthrow Fedra, leading to Joel and Ellie walking into a revolution only days in the making. Henry's connections are far greater in the show, creating a lot of additional weight in his motives on getting him and his brother Sam out of town. Kayvon Woodard and Lamar Johnson demonstrate an absolutely incredible bond between brothers that really need and rely on somebody that is hardened like Joel. He needs Joel and Ellie far more than he does in the game. Henry is not some cold-blooded killer and is far less comfortable with a gun in his hand than what might originally be perceived. And this adds some additional responsibility and weight to our protagonists. Henry and Sam's fates are almost identical to the games, and just like Sarah's in the opening episode, there is an absolute gut punch, even knowing what to expect. Druckmann and Mazin have kept us on our toes as we venture through new and interesting stories while still remaining true to the source material created by Neil and Bruce Straley over 10 years ago. Episode 6, we see Joel reunite with his brother Tommy, who is played by Gabriel Luna. We experience far more of the society that Tommy has joined since his departure from Joel and the Fireflies. Those who played Last of Us Part 2 are welcomed with really familiar location of Jackson, Wyoming. The show deviates from the game within Jackson as we spend this entire section of the game within a hydroelectronic dam and never actually venture into Jackson, the town itself. Neil mentions in the accompanying HBO podcast hosted by Troy Baker that the reason we don't see Jackson in The Last of Us Part 1 was they didn't have the budget to be able to support that type of environment at the time. The entire journey while reuniting with Tommy is within that dam and some of the outskirts there. We also see a far more vulnerable Joel truly seeking his brother's help in finishing the task that he promised Tess that he would complete. He doesn't feel adequate, he doesn't feel strong enough, he doesn't feel that he could protect Ellie, knowing the struggles that they've faced even just reaching Jackson. Episode 7 fits in a little more chronologically this time around, as the events from The Last of Us Left Behind DLC give us an almost identical look at the relationship between Ellie and Riley. Riley, who's played by Storm Reed, was fantastic. Their relationship was truly believable. Even within another bottle episode, we get to see some additional context and relationship with Riley, and of course the moment that she unfortunately had to take Riley's life after they were both bitten in the mall. Gamers come across a familiar face in episode 8 while Ellie is alone and trying to survive and support a wounded Joel. She's met with another group of survivors, which is led by the incredibly disturbing David, played by Scott Shepherd, and James, who played by Joel Miller himself, Troy Baker. This episode is absolutely heart-wrenching, just like in the game. The performances from Pedro and Bella in the moments after David's death are absolutely enthralling. It's Okay Baby Girl, I Got You was an absolute tearjerker as you see Ellie contend with the actions required in order for her to survive in that moment. Episode 9 starts by giving us a completely new glimpse into Ellie's history with introduction into her mother, Anna, played by none other than Ellie herself, Ashley Johnson. It revealed that the cause of Ellie's immunity was due to the fact that Anna was bitten right before Ellie's birth, and Anna's fate comes at the hands of Marlene, who promises to ensure Ellie's safety. We come back completely full circle, understanding the relationship that Marlene and Ellie had. Marlene not having necessarily the maternal relationship with Ellie, she definitely understood that for her to remain safe, she may need to stay at an arm's length, which eventually leads them to cross paths again after the incident with Riley. The scene with Anna and Marlene and Ellie as a baby just gives the finale far more weight once Joel and Marlene meet after Joel's final decision to save Ellie. The finale, in my opinion, was a little too short. With so much crammed into 45 minutes, we got a lot of the beats that mean so much to gamers in that final few sections, but it felt a little quick. We could have spent a little bit more time there. We get the touching moment with the familiar giraffe scene, which almost was shot for shot.
What are you doing?
It's all right.
Come here.
Come here, hurry up. Come on.
Hurry up. Come on.
So fucking cool. So fucking cool.
We then quickly move on to Joel in the hospital, speaking with Marlene, and eventually deciding that, hey, this is not okay. I'm going to make the decision to take Ellie away from this situation. Joel's rampage throughout the hospital shows Joel in a far darker light, almost completely vacant in his composure as he makes his way to Ellie. This scene is almost haunting. We get a glimpse into the Joel that we never really knew in between the events of Sarah and the start of 2023 when we come back into the present day. We don't have much context as to what Joel and Tommy were up to in that time, but we get a hint of what Joel is truly capable of if he's got his mind set on something. Those that have played the sequel know the consequences of Joel's decision, but for those unfamiliar, we're seeing Joel as the complex hero that he is. None of these characters are what you would call good people. They all have major flaws in a world that requires them to survive. However, by spending so much time with them, whether it's in the game or in the show, we're connected to them and want them to win, which is why the final scenes are so contentious. Is Joel's decision right or wrong? Of course, it's in the eye of the beholder, but as a father, I don't think I could wrestle with that type of decision. My kids or the world, that's a position no parent would wish to be in. Joel's already lost so much, and he can't bear to lose again. He lost Sarah, he lost Tess, he's lost a lot throughout his adventure that we've seen outside of everything that he lost before the events with Ellie, which is why this lie at the end is just so heartbreaking to see.
Maybe that's not what you
Swear
want.
to me. Swear to me that everything that you've said about the Fireflies is true.
They've both gone through so much, and to end in a position where he's the one further fracturing that relationship.
I swear.
It's hard to say who's more scared of being alone at this point. Ellie's acceptance of Joel's lie can be taken a few different ways.
Okay.
I don't think that she believes what he's told her, and going back to episode 6 with her conversation with Tommy's wife Maria, the only ones that can betray us are the ones we trust. Ellie knows that Joel has betrayed her trust, and we'll see the repercussions of that in the seasons to come. In regards to the common complaints that there wasn't enough clickers, I can absolutely see the validity in that. As gamers, they're at the forefront of just about every single combat experience. You do have run-ins with hunters and other human threats, but there's always the ever-lingering potential of a clicker or a runner or a bloater coming and ruining your day. It's not quite the same in the show. They do create an incredible tension when they do appear, although it is a little limited in the first season. Neil and Craig have assured fans that there will be more varieties of infected in the next season. I would have liked to have seen them appear a few more times in season 1, but the little glimpses that we did see of them kept them truly terrifying. The clicker sounds still give me shivers, as they did the first time that I ever experienced them in the game. It's great to hear that it's been picked up for a second season, with part 2 being expanded on further, potentially taking up multiple seasons. The story is quite grand and complex, with lots of flashbacks and ins and outs, and obviously seeing the repercussions of Joel's choice really coming to the forefront in the sequel. I am really excited to see where they take it from here. I think season 1 was absolutely excellent, and personally, with a story that I have so much familiarity with, to wrap up, I think they've done an absolutely excellent job, and I can't wait to see what they do next in the upcoming seasons. Overall, I believe the show has done a fantastic job of encapsulating what makes The Last of Us such an incredible story. The characters have been perfectly cast and portrayed, the performances across the board were excellent, the additional lore and flavour and context when Neil and Craig decided to colour outside of the lines only added to the exceptional experience that the game provided all those years ago. What did you think of The Last of Us Season 1? Leave a comment below. If you've enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.